Welcome back to Lab Champions. I'm Morgan Allen, and we have a special guest today. We have Tim Yoon with Affinity AI. Tim, thank you so much for joining.
No problem.
Awesome. So, give me a little bit of a rundown of Affinity AI and how you help people in the lab space.
Yeah. So we're a B2B marketplace for compounded medications. So think like peptides, GLP-1s, hormone therapy, sexual health, hair loss, those kinds of products. We're in between clinicians and compounding pharmacies. So clinics like wellness clinics, aesthetics clinics. So that's like med spas, longevity clinics, functional medicine clinics, weight loss clinics, those kinds of clinics. And then all types of compounding pharmacies. We have 20 of the largest compounding pharmacies in the US on our platform. And at least how it pertains to lab space, I would say is, if there are researchers or people, I guess a lot of clinicians, they run labs if that kind of counts. And so essentially when these clinicians are running labs, a lot of them, they do that because they want to see the biomarkers of the patient because that they're prescribing compounded medications. And so for a lot of clinicians that are using labs, it tends to be very relevant to them as they tend to also prescribe compounded meds. And instead of needing to have like 4 or 5 different portals with varied pricing and stock and dosages and efficacy across all these different compounding pharmacies, they could just use one portal like us, where we have 20 of those different pharmacies, compare prices, stock, dosages, the different pharmacies all in one place. Just makes it a much simpler process. And then the other thing is the fact that we tend to be able to beat their prices on a lot of the most important SKUs, which that are running the highest volume, like tirzepatide 60 milligrams, for instance, or NAD plus 1,000 milligrams or 2,000 milligrams, because of the fact that we have bulk negotiated rates, as well as what we do is we take a look at their current pricing that they're getting, we kind of analyze it, and then we put a discount on that based off of the SKUs that we actually can, right? If they're getting some absurd prices from like research prices, we can't really do that. We can't beat those prices, but if they tend to have like compounded medication prices, we can. And if they're around the ranges of like 100 to 200 scripts per month or patients, that's like a good starting point at least. Then we can help all the way up to the 5,000 plus scripts, let's say, for a telehealth brand. So yeah, that's kind of what we do.
So, tell me about those ways that you're able to help lower those prices, because that, in my mind, break it down for me. I know how you're able to help with the data portion of things with AI, but where does the pricing get involved?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll break down the compounded medication, space at a high level for what's going on in the market, right? So essentially, there are, $560 billion was paid in out of pocket pay in 2024 um, by patients. So we're starting to see a lot of healthcare move towards wellness, right? You see gyms popping up everywhere. You see med spas popping up everywhere. You see, Pilates out there being very popular, right? All these things that are much more for preventative care, right? These days, people don't want to die, right? The traditional healthcare system is really a sick care system, right? It's built for people that are dying, and then just giving them prescription drugs that then can help them survive. Honestly, because of the incentive structure that was set up by insurance, right? I don't think it's any blame to anybody in particular, but it's just how this American healthcare system was set up in the beginning. But as technology moves and advances, and as AI is advancing, now we're starting to ascend past that point of caring for sick people, and now being like, okay, how can we as people improve our lifespan, right? Instead of living to 80, right? Can we live to 100? Can we live to 120, right? And I think that's really what everybody these days are most excited about, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, like I used to be 250-ish pounds, and now I've been able to get myself to 151 pounds. I think I just checked this morning, and that was because a huge portion of it was GLP-1s, right? If I'm being honest, and so that I think I got like a high level understanding of that, as well as having 5 doctors in my family, studying to be a doctor during high school, getting into UCLA to study to be a doctor, right? All those things I have as my background, as well as like scaling different companies. I was an influencer before. I scaled 2 different companies to 300 ish grand a month. I think, yeah, it was especially for like the coaching space. It's a whole sided story. But bringing it back down, like I think I combined both of those abilities in this specific space, right? And tying it back to pricing, I'll bring that in. But basically, like as we enter this market and as we started, um, growing into, like understanding what the people's exact problems were, right? We saw a lot of the clinicians were kind of being unable to exactly like, oh, I'm confused about what's going on with pricing. I'm confused about, working with all these different compounding pharmacies. It just ended up becoming quite a mess for them. And so that's where we brought in these different compounding pharmacies together. And then as we're able to negotiate better rates with them, because of the volume that we collected, that was really what allowed us to bring those prices to that point. And I think the other value, our position isn't really like, okay, let's just make this the cheapest possible. It's like, how do we make the experience like really simplified, right? And so we have, one flow they could go through. They could check out multiple patients, multiple drugs at once. And so all of those things, like we're able to build into the core product that I guess, push it beyond just positioning ourselves and like, oh, we're the cheapest in the market. But I think
Mhm.
that's kind of the way to look at it. I know I did a whole loop there, so apologies if that was a little bit confusing.
No, I love it. It's very fascinating how you pull all these different, well, you benefit the consumer and you benefit the people that you're working with directly. So that's fantastic. So one thing I want to know is how are you reaching your clients? How do you get in touch with them? How do they find out about you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So are you asking about like how we're marketing or like how they can reach out to us?
How can they reach out to you?
Oh, pretty self-explanatory. Like I'm on LinkedIn or joinaffinityaI.com is our domain. But I think us uh, reaching out on LinkedIn is probably the easiest. Just looking at my name, Tim space Yoon Yoon, and then they can check it out there.
Okay, well, fantastic. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I, again, love what you are doing. It's very fascinating. So, Tim, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Okay, thanks, Morgan.
Yes, and viewers, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of Lab Champions. If you want more information on Tim Yoon, you can check out his profile right underneath this interview, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Whenever a lab is able to offer a report that is clear, actionable, that gives the diagnostic results very accurately, efficiently, along with therapeutic guidance, it really unlocks a lot of opportunities for them from a business standpoint and gives them a competitive edge against other labs. So there's a lot of competitors in the space in the lab world, and really providers, the lab report that they receive is the forward-facing item that they see and that they associate with the lab. So if the report is very clear, very solid, very actionable for providers, it increases the likelihood that they can get more business and have more providers sent to their lab and increase revenue. Whenever a provider is able to trust the lab report and build that trust with the lab, it really just gives them peace of mind that they're doing the best thing possible for their patient. Turnaround time in this space is everything. Obviously, you want to have the fastest result and get the provider the diagnostic results the next day if possible. But ultimately, if those results aren't really usable for the provider or they raise more questions than answers, then the turnaround time is obviously not as significant there. So the provider wants to receive the results quickly, efficiently, but at the same time, they want to know what's the clinical application of those results. So having that clarity, that guidance tagged along with the fast turnaround time is the most optimal situation for a lab. This issue with having a lab being a very sharp diagnostic solution with clear and actionable guidance is very important because antimicrobial resistance is increasing in our nation and our world. Every year it's getting worse and worse. Bacteria, fungi, viruses are getting more and more resistant. So really having a diagnostic solution and putting the patient on an appropriate antimicrobial as fast as they can and treating them from the appropriate length of time helps fight and combat that antimicrobial resistance, which is obviously of the utmost importance for mankind, for our world, and for the patients.